Hello, welcome to the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast, where it is all about helping amazing physicians just like you create a wealthy life free from burnout and with the financial security to practice medicine on your own terms. I'm your host, Dr. Elisa Chiang. Hello, and thank you for listening to the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast. For today's episode, I thought I'd talk about creating a spending plan. Many people talk about budgeting, but I'm more in favor of a spending plan. To many people, a budget is associated with something that's restrictive, something to prevent you from spending money. I think of the word budget like the word diet. People generally don't want to be on diets, and often they go on a diet to lose weight, but once they get to their goal weight, they don't maintain that goal weight because eventually they don't stick to that diet. Since we all have to eat, planning for what we eat by having an eating plan can not only help us reach our weight goals, but also maintain those health and weight goals. Likewise, a spending plan is to help you reach and maintain your financial goals. We all have the necessities that we'll spend money on, as well as things that we want to spend money on. Just like eating in itself is not a problem, spending money in itself is also not the problem. It's how you spend money, including if it's in line with your goals and your values. There are multiple approaches to making a spending plan, and you may have to play around with what works for you. So my thought is that a good overall approach to creating your spending plan is to look back at your prior spending. There are some who say that you should look at your income first, which it is important to look at your income, but I think knowing where you are currently and adjusting from that point is more likely to lead to success. Likewise, I think just trying to create a budget and not actually doing off base your current spending is harder than if you actually look at how much you're spending now and then start making incremental changes from where you are now instead of trying to implement something completely new. For some people, tracking your spending going forward may actually work better so that you can start keeping receipts or develop a system to record your spending as opposed to looking backwards. If you really want an accurate picture of your spending, it is good to look at a whole year. There are a lot of expenses that change throughout the year, like gas bills tend to be higher in the winter due to heating, and electricity bills tend to be higher in the summer due to air conditioning. There are also expenses that you may only pay once or twice a year, like premiums for insurances, taxes, and vacations. That being said, if you're tracking forward, I don't want you to wait a whole year before you get your spending plan together. Track for 2 or 3 months, and then go back and look at the cost of expenses that occur infrequently and see what you spent for those things in the past year. Bank and credit card statements can be really helpful to find your past spending and expenses. Many banks and credit cards even allow you to download transactions as a CSV file, which can be opened in a spreadsheet program like Excel. So next, what I'm going to do is go over all the categories for the expenses and spending that most people have. Of course, we all need food. So when I talk about food, I usually mean groceries, but this can also include dining out. I recommend separating groceries from dining out, since to me, groceries are a necessity and the lowest cost way to eat, whereas dining out is optional and more for entertainment. That being said, I know people who don't cook and get takeout regularly. So if that's you, dining out may be a necessity and how you get your food. So for each category, like food, you would have a subcategory. One would be groceries and one would be dining out. The next category is housing, which includes the subcategories of rent or mortgage payments, property taxes if you own, utilities like electric, gas, water, sewer, internet, and waste removal, if those aren't included in your city taxes. I also include cell phones under this category since, well, I know we gave up our landline years ago, and I think most people have at this point, but your telephone bill used to actually be attached to your home. You may also want to include the cost of lawn care, snow removal, and house maintenance. If you own your own home, a good rule of thumb is to set aside 2 to 4% of the home's value towards maintenance so that when you need a new roof, furnace, AC unit, or hot water heater, that money is available. Some people will dip into their emergency fund to pay for these items, but you know if your asphalt roof is 30 years old, you're likely going to have to replace it relatively soon. That's not an emergency, that's a planned future expense. You may also want to include furniture in this category depending on your situation. Some furniture does get replaced over time, whereas some furniture you keep forever. Transportation is the next big category, which will include any car payments, gas, maintenance for cars, DMV fees, parking, tolls, public transportation, or subway pass, or whatever you typically spend for Uber or Lyft or taxis, depending on your personal situation. If you've paid off your cars, you may still want to have a line item for saving for your next car. Ideally, you wouldn't have to add car payments to your spending plan when you're looking for a new car. You can also avoid getting a loan on the next car if interest rates aren't favorable. Insurance premiums are an expense that's generally only paid once a year. If you're paying monthly, you may be paying more than you would if you paid it annually or biannually. This does depend on the insurance company, but I know for my insurance, I pay less by paying a lump sum versus if they actually bill every month or do an ACH transfer every month. You'll want to account for the cost of homeowners or renters insurance, car insurance, umbrella insurance, own occupation disability insurance, life insurance if you have dependents, and health insurance. Along with those health insurance premiums, you'll also want to have a line item for copays, deductibles, and any other out-of-pocket medical expenses. The next category I call supplies, which is just all the stuff you buy. Some of it's necessary, like toilet paper, and some of it less necessary. This includes all your household supplies, personal care supplies, clothing, toys for the kids, supplies for hobbies. You get the idea. I have a line item specific for electronics to save up for the next computer or smartphone, since we typically do get one of those every 2 to 3 years for the smartphone and computers every 3 to 5 years. You can break it down as much or as little as you like. Services is another big category. This would include the cleaning person if you have one, dry cleaning, and the salon or barbershop. This also includes professional services, like if you use an accountant, lawyer, or nanny. I have coaching for myself as part of my spending plan because I find coaching so valuable that I never want to be without it. I also include subscription services like gym memberships in this category. I think this is also a good time to add that if you're living in a household where you're sharing personal finances with another adult, you'll both want to be on the same page about it. I also think it's a good idea to have a line item with an amount where each adult can spend on whatever they want without having to ask the other person. That amount may include something you buy or purchase or a service. Next up is entertainment and travel. As I mentioned before, you may include dining out as part of entertainment, which is what I do. You may also include any Starbucks habit here as well. You may also want to include your cable services or any streaming television services like Netflix, Hulu, or Disney+. This also includes going to the movies, museums, theater, and amusement parks. I love travel, and it's the biggest single item on my spending plan. Other than 2020 due to the COVID pandemic, I go on at least one big vacation of at least 2 weeks per year since I've been attending, as well as generally other shorter trips that are purely for fun. Charity and gifts. People feel differently about donating to charity. Some give 10% of their income, while others give a certain amount that they designate each year. Others give only when there's a cause that they hear about that they want to donate to, and some don't give at all. How much people spend on gifts is also all over the place. For some families, the winter holidays is a time where thousands of dollars could be spent. Gift giving also changes depending on what phase of life you're in. If all your friends are getting married, then you're probably buying a lot of wedding gifts, and you may also have a lot of travel to go to those weddings. If your friends are having children, you may be buying baby shower gifts. When it comes to deciding what to put on the line item for charity or for gifts, my advice is just to put some amount that feels good to you and not what you feel obligated to spend. And let's not forget about retirement. Generally, I recommend most physicians save and invest 20% of their gross income towards building their wealth for financial freedom. This is based on the average physician income with the assumption that the person did not have retirement savings prior to medical school and works a 30-year career as a physician. For most physicians, maxing out their retirement accounts is less than 20% of their gross income, which means that you'll want to include in your spending plan spending on investments for retirement. You can also, at this point, incorporate any other financial goals you have, whether it's paying off debt, establishing an emergency fund, or saving for your children's education. Decide how much you want to put towards each goal on a regular basis. If you have high interest debt, generally above 8%, you may want to consider prioritizing paying down this debt over investing for retirement. Also, as a reminder, if you're a W-2 employee, some expenses like federal, state, and possibly local taxes, as well as Social Security, Medicare, and retirement account contributions, as well as health insurance premiums, are likely deducted from your paycheck. If you're an independent contractor, You'll want to have separate accounting for your business. Yes, if you're an independent contractor, you have a business, even if it's just you. You may not have a business entity like an LLC, but as an independent contractor, you may be a sole proprietor, but you are still a business. Some people like to adjust their spending plan based on their take-home paycheck, meaning after all the deductions are taken out. Others do it based on their gross income and then include all the deductions that are taken out of their paycheck as line items in their spending plan. Either way is fine as long as you account for the spending accordingly. If you're basing your spending plan off your gross income, make sure to include all the line items for all the things like taxes and anything else taken out of your paycheck. If you're basing your spending plan on your take-home paycheck, then you don't want to double count things like your health insurance premium if it's deducted from your paycheck. You can get a template for a spending plan as an Excel worksheet as a part of the Financial Freedom Workbook, which is available at growyourwealthymindset.com/FI workbook. I'll put that in the show notes as well. The Excel sheet that comes with the Financial Freedom Workbook, which I call the Financial Freedom Calculator, has 4 different sheets in it, and one of those sheets is looking at your spending. So once you get all this information of your past spending in each category and subcategory, you'll have an idea of where your money goes. Now let's actually take a look at how much money is coming in, which I sort of already alluded to when I talked about looking at your paycheck, whether you're looking at your gross or your take home. Add up all the income you receive from all sources, including your physician income, any side business, whether it's chart review or medical consulting, and money from your investments. Does your total income exceed your expenses? If it does, that's great. You're off to a good start. If you haven't added your financial goals in before, then go ahead and do it now. What if your income exceeds your expenses? Then it's time to start looking at your spending and deciding on what spending isn't providing you as much value. You may have found some of this spending as you went back and looked at all your prior spending, or as you were tracking every expense. Many people have some subscription that they pay for, but no longer use, which continues to auto-bill to their credit card. You may discover your spouse's Starbucks habit is $5,000 a month. No joke. There was a woman physician who found this when she got serious about her household finances. Amazon is another big culprit where people tend to buy things they don't actually want or need, and it ends up collecting dust somewhere. The point is, first eliminate unnecessary expenses that aren't bringing value to your life. If you need to find more ways to balance the cash flow, you can consider how to bring in more income or how to lower other expenses. It may mean building up towards contributing as much as you would like towards your financial goals. Maybe you aren't in a position to put 20% towards retirement, but you can put 15%. Start with the 15% and see if you can gradually find ways to increase that amount over time. Or maybe you don't have an emergency fund yet, but once you do, you can shift funds that were dedicated to the emergency fund towards another financial goal. There are some apps that can help you with tracking your spending as well as planning your future spending. What used to be called Personal Capital, which recently rebranded as Empower, is a free program that you can use. Mint is another free one. There are a lot of people who like YNAB, You Need a Budget, YNAB, which is really about projecting forward spending as opposed to tracking your spending after it occurs. If you're interested in one of these apps, you may want to go back to episode 25, Tools to Help Track Your Net Worth and Spending. In that episode, I review Personal Capital, now called Empower, YNAB, Mint, and several other different programs. In summary, here are the steps we went through. 1, determine your current spending. And again, this may be tracking forward or looking backwards at your previous spending. Number 2, add in the money you want to put towards your financial goals. And this is something that can be done later. Number 3, determine all of your income. Number 4, alter your spending plan as needed so that your income exceeds your spending, including spending on your financial goals. The final step is to track your progress and make adjustments as you go. You can adjust and alter your spending plan as life changes. Your priorities may change, your expenses may change. There's no reason to stay anchored to a spending plan that's not working for you. Creating a spending plan may seem daunting at first, but seeing how your money flows, coming in and going out, is an important step in building wealth. After all, it's not what you make, but what you keep that will ultimately determine at least what your material wealth is. By staying committed to your goals, you can take control of your finances and achieve financial success. If you would like help creating your spending plan or working on your financial goals, then please reach out to me. You can always email me directly at wealthymindsetcoaching@gmail.com or set up a Zoom call by going to my website, growyourwealthymindset.com. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you're finding this podcast helpful, and if you do, please share it with your friends and family. I really want to get the word out to as many physicians as possible to help spread financial literacy among physicians. Thanks again for listening to the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast, and I'll be back next week. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you could share it with your friends and colleagues. And now for the disclaimer. I am not a certified financial planner, accountant, or attorney, and nothing I say should be construed as professional investment, tax, or legal advice. This show is primarily for your education and entertainment. I am a physician, but I'm probably not your physician. So if you need any medical advice, please contact your own physician. Thank you.